What's up, everybody? This is Jason, and you're listening to a special announcement episode of the Unsung Podcast. My newest audiobook has now been released on all the platforms. This one is another great release by Frank Kidd. His debut novel, Medicine Woman, was my first audiobook that I narrated, and this one tops it, in my opinion. It's better than his first one. It's called Once Upon a Time in Argentina, and it's a bit of a genre bender. You might call it a neo-Western with some action thriller elements. Kind of along the lines of a Tom Clancy novel in some places. The tagline on the cover says, "The Wild Bunch on the High Seas," which I think is a very apt description. If you've ever seen the movie The Wild Bunch, it has a lot of thematic similarities to that. That's probably one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I wrote reviews of both that movie and this book on my Substack, which I'll link in the show notes. But one of the things I said there was that this book could take place in the same universe as The Wild Bunch, just about 100 years later. But anyway, as per usual, I'll read you the back of the book synopsis. Quote, "Every year, thousands of Chinese fishing vessels descend on Argentina's territorial waters and fish them dry, causing ecological and economic damage estimated in the billions. Ryan McGowan, a disgraced Marine raider, yearns for a second chance at adventure before fluorescent depression kills him. Enter Mike Hudson, a private military contractor with a murky past. Mike recruits Ryan and a team of similarly disgruntled operators for a maritime security detail in Argentina, policing this Chinese illegal fishing with deadly force. Part military thriller, part hangout novel, part neo-Western, Once Upon a Time in Argentina is an old-school shoot-'em-up." End quote. So if you read Frank's first novel, Medicine Woman, you'll get a lot of the same style here, but like I said before, this book is just a step up in every way. There's more to the plot, more threads, more significant characters, and more violence too. This one is quite a bit more R-rated than Medicine Woman, especially when it comes to language. There's also more to think about even, especially for us in the current year modern world. And speaking of which, the opening chapter of this thing really is excellent. I mean, it's such a good hook to open this story. It'll have you laughing out loud, especially if you can relate to the situation our main character finds himself in. I'm something of a member of the corporate world myself, and while I'm fortunate enough to be able to work from home now, I also have some experience with the oppressive, soul-killing environment of the modern corporate office workplace, and I thought this was just an excellent and hilarious representation of it, right down to the posters with inspirational quotes on the walls. One of my favorite things about the book is the banter between the members of the team. In a lot of cases, when writers try to do things like this, it can come off as awkward and try-hard and not really believable, but Frank writes this kind of dialogue extremely well, and it ends up being an authentic and often hilarious portrayal of how a bunch of adventurous young men in their 20s talk to each other, as well as the things they talk about. So go pick up Once Upon a Time in Argentina wherever you get your audiobooks, subscribe to Frank on Substack, subscribe to me on Substack. I have more audiobooks in the works, as well as more Unsung podcast episodes. If you're an indie author with a book you'd like to turn into an audiobook and you think my voice would be a good fit for it, send me a DM on Substack or shoot me an email at unsung.substack@gmail.com. Links to everything are in the show notes, so go pick up Once Upon a Time in Argentina and enjoy.